Welcome, friends. My name is Silas Ollegario, and I'm the host of Think Onward, a podcast about books, studies, productivity, and lifestyle. Now, after the intro. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Think Onward. I'm your host. Thank you so much for being here. As I always say, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to listening to a guy talking about random stuff for 20 to 25 minutes every single week. I so much appreciate the fact that you like to listen to this podcast. If it's your first time here, well, you're welcome here every week. As I said in the intro, we talk about books, productivity, lifestyle, studies, but we also talk about music. We talk about problems and issues and life stuff and all the things that make us humans. And I absolutely love having this podcast, having this platform where I can express myself freely because that's definitely the way I feel about having a podcast. I feel like it's so great to being able, to have a place on the internet that I can just put myself out there, And because there are so many things happening and there are so many things that I would like to talk about, I decided that I would today have a podcast a little bit different than I normally like to do or that I normally do. But before I continue and say, if this is your first time, please consider subscribing. Please consider downloading this every week. I post this audio of this podcast every single week on my YouTube channel. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bold, so I like to record a video of me recording this podcast, but it's not the case today. My T-shirt is destroyed. And if I post a video wearing this T-shirt, my wife's gonna, be mad at me, and so will my mom, because even though she doesn't speak a word of English, she listens to this podcast every single week. Has no idea what I say, but moms, and that's it. And then I have this YouTube channel where I post videos every Monday. Different kinds of videos also. Sometimes talking about something, sometimes talking about something interesting, sometimes talking about something dull. Sometimes playing the drums, which is, I think, for the past month. Maybe my previous 4 or 5 videos have been of me playing the drums at church. Maybe one of the favorite things I do in life is playing the drums, and I love it. So I decided to record sometimes me playing the drums, making mistakes and fails, but also doing some things that are pretty nice and putting myself out there because, the internet's forever. At least someday I'm going to have something to tell my kids. Grandpa, I used to play the drums, and but today I would like to talk about so many stuff. That's why I've been thinking about naming this podcast putting like very many different names that are not necessarily connected to each other in the title. But let me start by saying that it's going to be a very random episode. Okay, let's go. I'm going to try not to take so long. I'm not going to try not to repeat myself so much. First, as you guys know, probably if you've been here more than once, I am on the path of becoming a physician in Canada. I'm moving to Canada soon. My wife and I, we decided to go to Calgary. And if you don't know the story, just go back. The last episode, the previous episode, was recorded with my wife. We both talking about the decision of going to Canada and why we chose Alberta, why we chose Calgary, and talking about the University of Calgary and etc. And I decided that I will fulfill the dream of being a physician, this thing that I have been dreaming since I was a little boy. Today I'm a 32-year-old man. And I like productivity, or at least that I like to pretend that I am being productive. Because I think that when you pretend being productive, you're actually trying to be productive. And when you're trying to be productive, is better than not being productive at all. Because when you're trying something, something's gonna happen. And one of the things that I love to do when spending my time is reading. And I think reading has this thing that when you read, people see you reading. Oh my God, no, I'm not gonna disturb this guy. He's reading. He's trying to be smarter. He's learning something. He's studying maybe. But when you're watching something, it's different, right? People feel like they can interrupt you and they can talk to you, and you just need to click pause, and they will be right. Because let's face it, if something's not live on TV, you can definitely pause it and give time to your wife, to your kids. You don't need to be an ass about it, anyway. And today, nowadays, for the past 2 weeks, I've been watching basically the same stuff on I would say Netflix, but not on Netflix. I've been watching the same stuff on HBO Max. Two of my favorite TV shows are on HBO Max. One is, both are done already. They had the season finales like years ago. One of them is ER. It's a medical drama from the 90s and ended up in the beginning of the 2000s. The other one is The Big Bang Theory, a comedy one. And I use them in different time because the Big Bang Theory, every episode is like around 20 minutes. So if I have like 20 minutes before I do something, I don't want to take my book, because sometimes 20 minutes is not enough to finish a chapter. But it is enough to have fun watching something that I enjoy. So I watch The Big Bang Theory. When I want to have more time and be more involved, because I want to feel like I will be a doctor and this kind of stuff, then I put ER. But ER, every episode is like almost 45 minutes. So we definitely need more time to do that. But because I don't want to feel like I completely wasted my time, I decided that I will take a composition book, college rule book that I have, and I decided to name this book, this notebook, The Randomness Book, From Medical School to the Big Bang Theory. Why did I do this? And here's why. Every time I watch the Big Bang Theory, I learn something new, because one of the reasons I enjoy the Big Bang Theory so much is because it's fun, but it's full of facts, full of scientific things that are real. Every single name, every single story they tell, every single time they mention a scientist or something that happened in history, you can go to Google and you're going to find it's actually true. Because there was an idea that the producers had in the beginning. Look, if you're going to make a show about science, let's not use fake things. Let's all go for science, because people are going to like. And yes, we do. And so I see so many things, so many different things, so many studies or many books or so many people that are famous or supposedly famous in the science world that, oh my God, I'm so curious and I want to know more about these people and these things. So I decided that I would take this notebook, write down what was happening, what the names, and go to Google afterwards. And so I could write it down just so I can have something to show from my time of being a lazy guy that watches TV series a lot. So just as an example, just as a very small example, there's an episode on the Big Bang Theory that they talk about Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat. What is Schrodinger's cat? This is a paradox of quantum superposition. Oh my God, it doesn't mean anything to me. So listen. In the thought experiment, a hypothetical cat may be considered simultaneously both alive and dead as a result of its fate being linked to a random subatomic event that may or may not occur. So what happened? Schrodinger, this guy, he created this experiment that he put a cat locked inside of a box. And the cat was locked inside of a box, and inside of the box there was a poison. And this poison would open in a certain time. So, because we know the cat is going to die after the poison is released, but the cat is not yet dead because the poison has not been released, so we can think about the cat as both alive and dead. That was the experiment. So, and that's something that I learned on the Big Bang Theory. So many things. One of the things that I learned in the Big Bang Theory is something that I actually use nowadays. For example, the Feynman technique. Feynman technique is a learning method named after Richard Feynman. Just in case you don't know, Richard Feynman was part of the Manhattan Project. Albert Einstein, Richard Feynman, and a couple of other guys. They actually built the first atomic bomb. The one that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan during the Second World War. Okay, whatever. The Feynman technique. Feynman technique is a learning method named after Richard Feynman. In this technique, a person explains the concept they're learning in a simple way to find gaps in their knowledge. They explain this to themselves. It is a mental model to convey information using concise thoughts and simple language. The ability of explaining to a 5-year-old. This guy, Richard Feynman, he said, look, you can only say that you know something when you're able to explain to a 5-year-old kid. Because nothing can be too complicated for you, if you understood, that you cannot explain to a child. If it is too complicated, maybe you should change your language. Maybe you should change the way you're using your words. And I actually do this when I'm talking to people, when I'm trying to explain something that I learned or that I read somewhere. And I do this in this podcast. And again, it's something that I learned on the Big Bang Theory. But now something that I've learned on the medical school stuff, okay? Including ER. Let me just take an example. Here, something that we do a lot. Lumbar puncture. Lumbar puncture, LP, is a spinal tap. So here's a description of a spinal tap. This is a procedure done to treat a condition or to diagnose. For this procedure, the doctor inserts a hollow needle into the space surrounding the spinal column. It's called the subarachnoid space. Oh my God, I don't know how to pronounce this word. Okay, I'm sorry. In the lower back to withdraw some cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, or inject medicine. It is normally used to diagnose infections such as meningitis and other disorders of the central nervous system, such as Guillain-Barré syndrome and multiple sclerosis, or cancers sometimes of the brain or spinal cord. See? So this is me watching a very nice and fun to watch and interesting and something that helps me in the future. But the fact that I'm writing this down, it makes me feel like, oh my God, I'm actually studying. I'm actually learning something. And maybe this is a tip for you. Maybe this is something, okay, Silas, you find a way, you finally found a way of not be a completely, in not being completely wasting your time when you're watching TV. So that's the first part of this podcast, okay? For the next part, I want to continue to talk about this kind of stuff. But as you guys know, probably, again, if this is not your first time here, if it is, and you know already that I like medical dramas and funny and comedy TV series, you also know that I love reading. And one of the things that I love reading is fantasy books. I'm crazy about J.R.R. Tolkien and J.K. Rowling and George R.R. Martin. And I decided that for the beginning of November until probably mid-January, I'll be reading the Game of Thrones books. And I started, of course, with book 1. I should have been almost at least towards the end of the book, but I'm not. I'm still in the first half of the book. There were like 4 days this past 2 weeks, this past 10 days that I haven't read. So today is November 10th. So for me, it's almost like it's November 6th because I haven't read every single day. I'm not a kind of guy who feels guilty after not reading because I read a lot, so I don't need to prove anything to anybody. It's just I need to prove something to myself. And because I actually use this podcast as a way of creating accountability. It's almost like you guys are my sponsors. That's what they call in the AA when you have someone that you need to call because you are feeling needs to do drugs or to smoke or to drink. Then you have this sponsor that's gonna help you. And yes, I feel like you listeners of this podcast, you are my sponsors, and that's why I like creating accountability here for you guys. And I started the book. And you guys know I've read this book already twice, Game of Thrones. But the first book, it's been a long time, and I've read so many things afterwards. But now because my wife was a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, she was watching the TV series again, and that's one of the reasons I decided to read the books again. Because of that, I can basically notice so many things that are different in the books than they are in the movies. But here's the thing that I've learned with George R. Martin himself. I don't like comparing the books with the movies or the books with the TV series or books with whatever it is. The way I understand is that books is a kind of, the written word is a kind of art, but movie is a different kind of art. Movies are a different kind of art, just like painting. I don't think you can say, for example, that the Mona Lisa is better than, I don't know, Apollo or the statue of David. You don't compare a painting with a sculpture. You cannot say that this sculpture is, or the symphony of one of the symphonies, the ninth from Beethoven, is better than the Sistine Chapel. No, they are not in the same league. They cannot be compared to each other. In the same way, I understand this. I understand that books cannot be compared to TV series or to movies, for that matter. I think you compare books to other books. So, for example, now I've read at least the 5 main books of they're already released from Game of Thrones, the A Song of Ice and Fire. So I know, for example, that A Feast for Crows is my favorite book. For so many reasons, I love that book. Now that I'm going to read again, I'm going to figure out if it's still my favorite, if I prefer the other one. Maybe I'm going to read with other eyes. I don't know. But again, I'm trying to compare these books with the books. George R. Martin, he gave an example. I'm not going to remember exactly which one. But he said, for example, let's imagine the Starks, Ned and Catelyn, they have 6 kids in the books. But the TV series, they show them having 5 kids. But in reality, they had 0 kids because they don't exist. And these are words from George R. R. Martin himself. People should stop being mad at directors for changing the book. You don't compare books to or for changing the movies. You don't compare it. It makes no sense. And I decided to read and to watch stuff with those eyes. With these eyes, that I'm not gonna compare them with different expression of art. With that being said, it's almost impossible not to remember the TV series when I'm reading the book, because some scenes are portrayed exactly the same way. Some other scenes, they don't exist in the book, or they don't exist in the TV series. Sometimes it makes no sense. It makes no, oh my God, why would they remove this? But sometimes, oh no, okay, thank God they removed, because the scene in the book is terrible. This chapter shouldn't be here. Sometimes it's the opposite. Of course, everybody got mad with that ending, Maybe the only ending that people hated more than the ending of Game of Thrones was the ending of Lost. But I don't want to talk about this. It still goes deep in my soul, the fact that they did that to Lost. But anyway, this is another thing that's happening. The last part of this podcast is going to be about what's going on with our lives. Rebecca and I, as you guys know, again, I love to repeat, as you guys know, we're moving to Canada, and we've had today a meeting with a company that this company provides a kind of service that is amazingly nice. Basically, they developed this kind of service in Calgary, and what they do is, because a lot of people are immigrating to Canada, people are arriving there and they have to go look for apartments. But when you have to rent an apartment based on what you see on pictures, trusting the landlords, and not being able to actually see the apartment and see the conditions, if the building is working and everything is okay, if the pictures actually meet the reality of the apartment. So this company, when you hire them, they actually do this for you. You choose the apartments, they go there and they video chat, and they FaceTime you. Oh, look, it's exactly how the pictures are showing. Oh, it's even better. They remodeled this. They changed the refrigerator. Oh, yeah, everything's working. Oh, no, this wall wasn't supposed to be here. Oh, it should be other color, or it should be whatever. There's a leakage here and this kind of stuff. And they do this. They also go there when people need to install internet. So just so you guys have an idea, once Rebecca and I arrive in Canada, we will have an apartment furnished and with food inside the fridge, in the pantry, and the house is going to be clean, internet installed, all because this company is going to do all that, of course, for a very fair price. And we had a meeting with them, and all this brings us so much joy because, oh my God, we're so close to being in Canada. We're so close to, after so many years, such a long time, saving money, studying English, preparing ourselves to go, and this kind of stuff. We are finally on the way. It's like it's the last stretch of a marathon, when you need to keep pushing, you can see the finish line already. So we still have months in Brazil, still have a long time to stay here and develop and work and continue building and creating life here. But it's nice to know that we have these things that are happening in the future. And the reason I say this, sometimes, oh my God, why are you opening up so much about your life? But the thing is, I'm happy to do it. I think that people who decide to follow us, and maybe it's maybe people you have never seen my face. You don't even enjoy my voice, but the fact that you're listening, it is important to me that I'm able to share this kind of stuff with you guys. So yes, we're very happy. We're very thrilled to be in this part of this process. Finally, it's here. It's finally here. And yeah, I think that is it. Look, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, if you enjoy this kind of things that I talk about, the random stuff, the book stuff, the music stuff, whatever it is, if you're hearing this, I cannot say watch. If you're hearing this on YouTube, please leave a comment down below. Consider subscribing, because every week, people don't understand how much liking a video and subscribing actually helps the creator. And because I'm a very small YouTuber and very small podcaster, every single like makes a big difference. And some of the people I know, they started commenting in the videos, and man, I'm so happy. I'm so thrilled. In case you have suggestions, Silas, why don't you explain a little bit about this? Why don't you talk about that? If you have a suggestion of a book, if you even want to comment on a book, if you want to be part of this podcast, let's extend to this, okay? This is a new idea I just had right now. If you speak English and if you want to be part of this podcast, we can definitely arrange some time to record this and have a nice conversation about anything that we talk about in this podcast. How does that sound? If you enjoy, also, if you have some time, just go write some review, a positive review, please, on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music, Deezer, and Spotify, all the places where you can listen to my stupid voice, okay? But again, thank you so much for being here. See you again on Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Why am I saying Tuesday? I see you again on Monday on my next video, playing the drums, but also on my next episode of Think Onward, okay? Peace.